in the heart of Trell Station, where countless alien tongues shouted their trades into the stale air. A human moved like he belonged, and like he didn't. Drake Holloway, mercenary by trade, walked not in search of war or weapons, but towards something quieter, something stranger. The stall was humble, nearly invisible in the chaos. Its keeper, a green-skinned alien woman named Nira, looked up with eyes too large and sad to be ignored. Her voice, a melodic lilt, slipped past Drake's defenses every time. "Back again, human?" she asked. Drake leaned on the counter, wearing a smile that had disarmed enemies and admirers alike. "Your trinkets are more interesting than another plasma rifle." Nara's sharp teeth flashed, a smile not quite human. "You say that every time. Still haven't said what you do with them." Drake lifted a carved figurine, bone white and ancient. Professional secret. She named a price. He paid it without bargaining. Fingers brushed. Hers cool, his warm. A touch that lingered. A voice oozed in behind her. Gorth, her employer. Bulbous, cruel. "Nobody wants to mate with the orphan girl," he sneered. Even her own kind threw her away. Drake's jaw clenched. Nara's gaze fell. She stepped away from the stall, beckoning Drake with a motion so quiet it might have been a plea dot in the aisle shadows. Among shelves of forgotten relics, she shrugged. "He's not wrong. I am alone. No one ties their fate to mine." "That doesn't make it right," Drake said, lifting a heavy item onto the shelf for her. "Where I'm from, everyone deserves respect." She asked where that was. "Earth," he replied, but he hadn't seen it in years. "It must be nice," she said, "to go anywhere." "It is," he admitted, "but it gets lonely." Gorth's bellow reminded them of reality. Nara sighed. "Will you come back next cycle?" Drake smiled. "Count on it." As he left, the figurine in his pouch felt heavier than it should. Behind him, Gorth's voice barked again, cruel and dismissive. Drake paused. A message blinked on his come-urgent contract. High pay. Delay your departure. He told the SI, "Some things are worth more than credits." The universe, after all, was full of wars and wonders. But sometimes it was the quiet cruelty, the discarded orphan, the sad eyes, that cut the deepest. And in Drake's mind, a plan began to take root. Not a mission, not a job. A promise. The next cycle came, and so did Drake. Through the same humming market, through the same currents of species bartering survival, he returned, but not as a man chasing trinkets. This time, his hands carried a small box, and his heart carried weight he hadn't felt in years. Nara saw him before he reached her, and her emerald face brightened like a dawn that had waited too long to rise. "You actually came back," she sighed, voice soft, stunned. "I told you I would," Drake replied. She looked different, not in form, but in light. Her silver hair shimmered stronger, her posture held less apology. The same tattered outfit, yet now worn like a banner, not a burden. Gorth said, "Humans never keep their word." Gorth knows nothing about humans. She laughed, a sound that landed somewhere in his chest. And in that crowded marketplace filled with 1,000 voices, only hers mattered. "Come with me," she said. "There's a place I go." They walked through corridors winding like old thoughts, up lifts that hummed with age, to a viewing deck that overlooked stars too distant to name. "I come here when I get longer breaks," she said. "It reminds me there's more than just this stall, this station." They stood together, shoulder to shoulder, eyes lost in ancient light. "Have you ever thought about leaving?" he asked. "Every day. But where would I go? Who takes in an orphan with no skills, no family? I would." She turned slowly, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "What?" Drake pulled the box from his pocket. The ring inside was simple, but it shimmered like an aurora, bending color around itself the way souls bend around love. Where I come from, he said, we give this to someone when we want to spend our lives with them. Her voice cracked. Nobody wants to mate with the poor orphan girl. I do. I don't want anyone else. I want you. And in a galaxy ruled by alliances, contracts, betrayals, her tears fell, not from sorrow, but from a heart that had never been asked to hope. She whispered yes, again and again, as if afraid the stars might hear and undo it. They stood like that, two beings shaped by loss, daring to believe in something gentler. Plans were whispered, secrets shared. Her meager treasures, a crystal, an old hollow of two faces, were the only past she carried. At the edge of the market, he kissed her again. 2 days, he said. Be ready. I will, she whispered, her voice wrapped in something that had once been extinct. Joy. Drake walked away with a smile he hadn't worn in years. Behind him, the world stayed loud, chaotic, and cruel. But within them both, something quiet had taken root. Not fragile, but firm. The kind of love forged not from fate, but choice. Drake returned to his ship, the Stellar Drift, not as a lone wanderer, but as a man building a life that, for once, wasn't just about survival. His crew, misfits and mercenaries, bound by trust not law, took the news with raised brows and crooked smiles. They'd seen Drake survive wars, but they'd never seen him fall in love. The next morning, he returned to the market with purpose. But something was wrong. Nira wasn't there. Gorth stood behind the stall, speaking to a tall alien with skin like rippling ice and eyes black as void. As Drake approached, the stranger vanished into the crowd. Where is she? Drake asked, tone calm but steeled. Not here, Gorth said too quickly. Busy, taking inventory. Drake didn't move. I'll wait. Sweat beaded on the trader's bloated brow. I got an offer, he stammered. A transfer contract. Not selling her, just business. She gets paid more, better life. Who made the offer? Drake's voice was low now, sharp. A new voice cut through the noise. We did, said the ice-skinned alien, reappearing, with 2 towering guards at his flank. I am Council of the Lion, the figure said with a shallow bow, of the Solarian High Council, and Nira is not who you believe she is. Drake said nothing. His stance changed, imperceptibly, into that of a man reading danger. She is the last heir of House Vidian, the Lion continued. Her parents murdered in a political coup. She vanished. Until now, Drake's heart froze. The pieces shifted. A child abandoned. A world in ruin. The weight of a ring now tangled in bloodlines and ancient power. He demanded to see her. You will, the Lion replied. She is being briefed by her people, but she have questions. Many. For you. As if summoned, she appeared, eyes wide, clutching a crystal in trembling hands. My parents, she whispered. They were murdered, not in an accident. Murdered. Drake stepped to her side. I just found out. You knew? She asked, hurt cracking through her voice. No, he said. Steady. Not until now, I swear it. The Lion bowed again. Lady Vidian. Don't call me that, she said sharply. My name is Nira. It does not change your blood, the Lion replied, nor the power you now inherit. She turned to Drake. What if I don't want to go with them? What if I want to? Stay with you? You are free to choose, the Lion said, though his tone left out. Drake stepped forward. If she goes, I go. The alien's expression cracked, then reset. Unprecedented, but acceptable. The Council will want to meet you both. As the Lion walked away, Gorth dared one last comment. Who would have thought? Little Nira, a great lady. Drake's glare silenced him. Nira trembled. Does this change things? Drake took her hands, pressing his forehead to hers, as they had done once before. Not for me, I didn't love a noble. I loved the girl who sold dreams in a marketplace. She whispered, I'm scared. So am I, he said. But we face it together. And in the quiet between them, two truths fused, one forged in memory, the other in vow. They left behind the market, the stall, the orbiting din of small lives bartering small dreams. In their place loomed Thalion's vessel, sleek, diplomatic, too clean. Drake's ship, the Stellar Drift, followed at distance, instructed to wait, watch, and prepare. Drake boarded with one hand on his blaster, the other gripping Nira's. You'll share a cabin, Thalion informed them, his voice neutral. We assumed ... attachment. Damn right, Drake muttered. When they were alone, Drake swept the room for surveillance. 3 bugs. Disabled in minutes. Paranoid? Nira asked, amused. Prepared, he replied. Something's off? Why now? Why let me come so easily? She touched the elegant fabric laid out for her. Silken robes of a birthright she barely remembered. Maybe they only just discovered I'm alive. Or maybe, he said, they've been waiting for the right time. She leaned against him, warmth in a sterile room. At least we're walking into it together. Night came quickly. The formal dinner, a test more than a welcome. A hall of light and crystal, filled with smiling eyes and sharpened intentions. Nira carried herself with grace that surprised them both. Something buried awakened in her. Mannerisms etched in blood, posture taught by ghosts. Drake watched, silent. A protector among vipers. Then came the final guest, broad-shouldered. Stern, military. Commander Rallick, he said. Drake recognized him, not the name, the face. 5 years ago. Proxima 4, a mission gone wrong. 3 dead. A scar carved into Drake's side. The man behind it, now greeting them as guardian of House Vidian. Rallick studied him. Have we met? Drake lied. I'd remember. Dinner continued, words floating over the tension. They spoke of heritage, of honor, of inheritance. I want to know who killed my parents, Nira said finally. Silence. Political extremists. Thalion replied. The ones caught ... were pawns. Drake added. Then the real killers are still out there. Rallick smiled, cold and careful. Which is why her return must be ... discreet. They returned to their quarters in silence. That man, Drake said, was on Proxima 4. Different name. Same face. Nira's eyes widened. He led a mercenary crew, Drake explained. We were protecting a target. He came to kill them. You think he killed my parents? I think it's no coincidence. She paced. If he recognizes you, he already suspects. But it was chaos that night. I wore a helmet. She stopped pacing. Drake ... I'm scared. He took her hands. Whatever you find here, you already have one truth. Someone who loves you. Exactly as you are. Her tentacles curled. The gesture he had come to understand as emotion too deep for words. Show me, she whispered. And they did, in silence. In closeness. In the collision of human and Solarian flesh, they found sanctuary. Later, as Nira slept, Drake lay awake, mind racing with names, plans, exits. They were walking into a nest of knives. And someone in this palace feared what Nira might remember. Solaria emerged like a dream sharpened by danger, emerald and azure, cloaked in silver clouds. From orbit, it shimmered like something holy. Beside Drake, Nira stared, breath held. It's beautiful, she whispered. Like you, he said. And for a moment, the war behind his eyes quieted. The capital, Iam, spread across the land like a tapestry of spires and domes. At its heart stood her inheritance, the Vidian Palace. Cold stone wrapped in tradition, secrets, and blood. A delegation awaited them. Robes heavy with status, eyes heavy with expectation. Matriarch Lindra stepped forward, her voice trembling with ancient reverence. Lady Vidian, I served your mother. I prayed you'd return. Nira nodded, grace instinctual. But Drake stayed close, a shadow of warning at her side. There is a ritual, Lindra said. Purification. Before your presentation to the High Council. She's not leaving my sight, Drake said. The ritual is for Solarians only. Talayan replied, ever smooth. But perhaps a compromise. Rallick stepped forward. I'll escort the human. He'll be safe. Drake's eyes narrowed. If she's not back in 3 hours, I'm coming. They separated Dot in the palace corridors. Rallick led Drake to a guest chamber dressed in opulence. But threats still lived in the silken stone. You remind me of someone, Drake said as he entered. A mercenary on Proxima. Arrogant, cold-eyed, traitor. You're mistaken, Rallick said, but his tentacles twitched, a tell Drake hadn't forgotten. I don't forget faces, Drake replied, or betrayal. Rallick's hand grazed the ceremonial blade at his hip. Be careful. Guess lose. Their protections quickly. So did her parents. With one last threat veiled in silence, Rallick vanished. Drake searched the room, found bugs, crushed them, activated his communicator. Status? He asked. His second-in-command replied. Clear and low. We're in position. Local underground confirms. High Councilor Dravik ordered the hit on her parents. He's ruled by fear for 15 years. He won't give it up easy. Drake's voice hardened. Find leverage. Fast. Outside, the city sparkled. Somewhere within its folds, Nira was being broken open by ritual and perhaps rediscovering what they had tried to erase. He hoped her memories would be her armor, not her undoing. In the sacred chamber, Nira floated in liquid that glowed with memory. Lindra's chant stirred echoes buried too deep for thought. Images rushed her. A garden, a father's voice, a mother's lullaby. Purple flowers. Then came the scream of alarms. A lab beneath the palace. Her father's voice, frantic. Remember, Nira, the key is in your blood. Only you can unlock it. Her mother's tears, an escape pod, a whispered prayer. She surfaced, gasping. My father's work, she said. They killed him. For it. Lindra nodded. He made something powerful. A shield or a weapon. They feared it. It lives in your DNA. Nira's breath caught. Do they know? They suspect, but they can't access it. Only you can. That's why Dravik wants you silent. Her hands trembled. Does Drake know? If Rallick has his way, Lindra said darkly, Drake won't live to see. Tomorrow. I have to warn him. There's no time. But I'll send word. You must finish the ritual, or they'll suspect everything. As attendants robed her in silks fit for ancient bloodlines, Nira's thoughts burned with only one. Fire. Drake had seen her when no one else did. And now that she knew who she truly was, she would not lose him. Not to assassins. Not to power. Not to fate. The door to Drake's chamber hissed open at midnight, and he rose without hesitation, weapon drawn in one smooth motion. Please don't shoot, whispered a young Solarian girl. Lady Vidian sent me. Drake didn't lower his blaster. Prove it. She said to tell you. Everyone deserves love, even those who've been cast aside. His arm fell. Those had been his words, the night he gave Nira the ring. What's the message? Commander Rallick intends to kill you tonight. The matriarch has arranged a meeting. The ancestral gardens. Midnight. This way. She guided him through tunnels behind the walls, servant paths unseen by the powerful. They emerged into moonlight and the scent of flowers from a memory Nira once described. Purple blossoms under starlight. There, beneath a silver gazebo, she waited. He almost didn't recognize her. cloaked in noble silk, crowned in tradition, but her eyes were still hers. Still the girl from the market stall. She rushed to him. "Thank the stars," she whispered. "I was so afraid they'd moved against you." He held her tight, anchoring her to the moment. "There's no time," she said. "Dravik, the High Counselor, he ordered my parents' deaths. My father created something that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. It's hidden, locked with my DNA. I'm the key. That's why they want you alive," Drake said, "and why they want me dead. Dravik fears what we are together. A Vidian heir with a human mate who commands his own crew. It terrifies them." Drake almost smiled. Smart man, but the moment shattered. Boots in the gravel. Shadows moving. Rallic entered the garden with 2 guards. "They must be here," he said. "Find them." Drake reached for his weapon, but Nira stopped him. "Wait, let me." She stepped into the open, voice regal, cold as steel. "Commander Rallic, looking for me?" He flinched, startled. "My lady, you should not be alone." "I'm not alone." Drake stepped forward, blaster raised. "Evening, Commander." We were reminiscing about Proxima 4. The guards moved to draw. Drake didn't blink. "Lower your weapons," he said, "or my crew will open fire." Energy hums answered him. Shadows emerged from the garden's edges, his people, silent and armed. "You're surrounded," Drake said. "Communications are cut. No help's coming." Rallic didn't reach for his blade. Instead, he stared at Nira. Something shifted in his expression. Not defiance. Not fear. Something older. "You want the truth?" he asked softly. "Then? Listen." And he knelt. "I failed your parents," he said. "I wasn't there when they died. But afterward, Dravik gave me a choice. Serve him, or join them in death." "So you chose survival," Drake growled. "I chose to wait," Rallic said. "To protect her. To find the right moment. I volunteered to confirm her identity. To shield her, if it was truly her." Nira studied him, unreadable. "Why should I believe you?" she asked. He bowed his head. "Because the resistance has grown within these walls. And I've fed them." "Names." The voice of matriarch Lindra rose behind them. "He speaks true," she said. "Without him, we would never have found you." Drake stepped to Nira's side. "We can still run. Find a quiet world. Live free." But her eyes were steel now. "No. I've spent my life running from who I was. It ends now." She turned to Rallic. "Then help me reclaim what was stolen. Help me find my father's lab." Rallic rose. "Dravik moves at dawn. He'll use the ceremony to declare her under protection and eliminate you in secret. Then we move first," Drake said, drawing her close. "Together." The night held its breath. Dawn was coming, and with it, reckoning morning broke over the palace like a blade pulled from shadow. Gold light poured through ancient spires as Solaria prepared for spectacle, but beneath the silks and ceremony, something primal stirred. Drake stood beside Nira at the threshold of the High Council chamber, dressed not in diplomacy, but in truth. His blaster was visible. Intentionally, Nira's posture was unshakable. The Orphan was gone. Only Lady Vidian stood now. They entered. 12 counselors awaited. Robes shimmering, faces masked in courtesy. Among them sat Dravik, predator in silk. His eyes locked on Drake, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Not in greeting, in calculation. "Lady Vidian," Dravik said with syrup tones, "we welcome you home, after your long and unfortunate exile." "Save the performance," Nira said, voice sharp as starstone. "I know what you did." The chamber shifted, quiet, not from surprise, but from fear. "I accuse you," she said, "of murdering my parents and conspiring to erase me." Dravik's smile stiffened. "Serious claims, my lady. Perhaps your time among lesser species has clouded your judgment." Drake stepped forward. Funny thing about us lesser species, we're very good at finding evidence. He nodded. A hidden projector blinked to life. Voices filled the hall. Damning, unmistakable. Dravik's own commands echoed. Ensure no survivors, especially the child. The genetic key must not escape. Gasps, movement. Faces turned. Dravik moved to draw, a hidden blade, quick as breath, but Ralik was quicker. The blade never left its sheath. The traitor was subdued by the one he thought loyal. Drake's hand tightened on his weapon, but didn't fire. Truth had already struck. Nira raised her voice. As heir of House Vidian, I claim my seat. I demand a vote of no confidence. Silence again, this time heavy with weight. One by one, hands lifted. All 12. Unanimous. Dravik was dragged. Away, robes trailing behind him like the lies he wore. Nira stood taller. My father's invention, she said, was not meant for domination. It was a shield to protect our people, not enslave others. That is the legacy I will honor. And then, as if the galaxy itself had stilled, she turned to Drake. And this man, this human, saw my worth when no one else did. He is not an outsider. He's part of my future. No voice objected. No voice dared. Outside, the twin suns of Solaria rose higher. But within that chamber, it was not daylight that brought illumination. It was the truth, rising from ashes, wrapped in love, carried by fire. And it had only just begun. 3 months passed. The palace no longer whispered of ghosts. It echoed, with laughter, diplomacy, and change. The woman once hidden in shadow now walked halls of power with her head held high. And the mercenary who once wandered alone found himself at the center of a world he had no map for, and no desire to leave. Drake stood on the palace balcony, the wind playing with his hair, the twin moons rising over Iam like silent sentinels. Behind him, footsteps soft as memory approached. Nara's arms wrapped around him. Thinking about leaving again? She teased Dot. He turned, smiling, just admiring the view. It's not bad for a guy who used to buy trinkets. She laughed, light and real. Who would have thought? The poor orphan girl, unmated and unwanted. Now the most powerful woman in the quadrant. Drake leaned in, voice low. And the human who found out far too late and loved her anyway. Loved her first, she corrected, her tentacles curling in affection. The council has approved the union ceremony. It will be the first recorded marriage between human and Solarian. Breaking barriers, he murmured against her lips. It's what we do. He kissed her, not with urgency, but with the quiet surety of someone who has survived everything love is not supposed to endure. Politics, war, bloodlines, betrayal, and still chose to stay. In that kiss lived 1,000 unsaid things, promises, griefs, hopes. But more than anything, it was a declaration, not to the council or to the galaxy. To each other. When they pulled apart, the stars had risen higher, like they too had come to bear witness. You ready for forever? He asked. I was ready the day you looked at me, she said, and didn't. See a contract, a noble, or a weapon. Just a girl. Just me. He took her hand, and the ring, once a symbol of quiet rebellion, now shimmered in the light of legitimacy. They watched the city below, alive and shifting. All eyes waited. Threats simmered. The politics of power forever hungry. But none of it touched them here. Not on this balcony. Not in this moment. They had come from nothing and chosen each other anyway. And in doing so, they had built something indestructible. Not a kingdom. Not an empire. But a bond the galaxy could neither buy nor break. Though the palace had quieted, not all secrets had slept. Beneath its stones, beneath its memory, something still waited. Something Nira's father had hidden with a desperation. Born of prophecy and fear. The key, he had said, lived in her blood. Now, with Dravik unseated and resistance leaders stepping into the light, the search began in earnest. Ralik, now openly allied with Nira and Drake, led the descent into the forgotten wing of the Vidian estate. Stone corridors twisted downward, untouched for years, kept from memory by silence and fear. At the final door, biometric locks awaited no key but one, hers. Nira reached out. The system hummed to life, ancient mechanisms shifting. Lights bloomed, and the door opened. Inside lay a chamber untouched by time, crystalline consoles, glowing archives, and at its center, a device unlike anything Drake had seen. Not a weapon, not a bomb, something more elegant, something more terrifying in its potential. Ralik's voice was reverent. A planetary shield network, capable of blanketing entire systems. Drake stepped forward, eyes narrowing. But it can be reversed, inverted, used to trap, isolate, or destroy. Exactly, Ralik confirmed. Which is why your father encoded it. Without Nira, it couldn't be weaponized. She moved to the console. Symbols pulsed as if recognizing her. What happens now? She asked. Drake didn't answer right away. He watched her, the way her fingers hovered, the way the room seemed to bend toward her. You make a choice, he said at last. The same one your parents tried to make. A shield, not a sword, she murmured. Behind her, Alindra entered quietly. There will be factions, allies who become enemies when they learn you hold this. Some will call it salvation, others temptation. I didn't ask for this, Nira said. No heir does, the matriarch replied. But you were chosen, not by blood, but by survival. You lived, and now you must decide what that life is worth. Drake stepped beside her. Whatever comes, you're not alone. She placed her hand against the console. The system accepted her. Lights flared. The archive unlocked. Centuries of knowledge unfolded like a star chart. Nira didn't flinch. Then we begin. We use this for protection, for peace. And we tell the truth. The matriarch bowed her head. Drake watched her, not as a mercenary, not as a partner, but as someone who had seen empires rise and fall and knew that the only thing that ever outlasted them all was love, when wielded with strength. The chamber closed behind them, but its light followed them out. They called it the First Union, a moment that shattered species lines and rewrote diplomatic protocols. The ceremony was understated, held not for spectacle, but for vow. Nira and Drake stood together, not as representatives of bloodlines or borders, but as two souls who had chosen each other. Before the palace, before the politics, before the prophecy, the galaxy watched. Whispers became legends. But inside the garden where they first kissed beneath a moonlit canopy of purple blossoms, it was quiet. She wore no crown. He wore no armor. Only the ring remained, glowing softly on her green finger, a reminder of where it all began. Afterward, as the stars turned above Solaria, they returned to the balcony. Not rulers, not relics, just themselves. Do you ever wonder, she asked, how different things would be if you hadn't stopped at my stall? Drake looked at her, the silver of her hair brushing the breeze, the strength in her eyes earned through suffering. No, he said, because I didn't stop by accident. You believe in fate now? He shook his head. I believe in choice, and I made mine when I saw you, surrounded by cruelty and dust, still holding your head high. She leaned into him. And I made mine when you didn't flinch, not from my teeth, not from my story, not even from my silence. They watched the city, lights blinking like constellations caught in gravity. There will be more battles, she said. There always are, he answered. But we face them, she continued. Not as pawns, not as heirs, as equals. He turned to her fully. And if the day comes when we have to vanish again, to flee, to survive, Would you?" "I already did once," she said. "But this time, I wouldn't be running away. I'd be running with you." He kissed her, slow and steady. A promise renewed. In the years that followed, the name Vidian rose again, not in conquest, but in council. Peace spread in fragile rings. Some resisted, some plotted. But none could undo the truth that one orphan girl, unloved, unwanted, had not only survived, but rebuilt an empire of compassion. And at her side stood a human, flawed, fierce, and faithful. Together they were not perfect, but together they were unbreakable. And in a galaxy teetering between ruin and rebirth, it was not lineage that changed history. It was love, chosen, fought for, and never once surrendered.